Thank you so much. You can see my roots really come from the farm, come from the food and agriculture industry. I thought about the theme of the conference and also what I do in my day-to-day and where I come from and how I could bring these all together. And I think you'll find it pretty interesting. So my grandmother, someone that is such a big inspiration in my life, I would call my best friend. She migrated to Evanston, Illinois in the 60s, but grew up growing watermelons and picking cotton down in Opelika, Alabama, somewhere that I would spend a lot of my summers actually during elementary school. Fell in love with a peacock right down there in Alabama. And soon after, really became close with my grandfather, who on the other side of the family, he actually started and retired into Virginia with a local meat distribution company. I had never been hunting before. I didn't even know how you got bacon, but I learned that I was really passionate about that once I figured out his process. So when I was down at UNC, actually about 2 hours away from where he ended up retiring in Central Virginia, I was able to go up in there and visit him. At the time, he was around 90 years old and pretty accessible. Loved to fish, would go out with him, learn how to hunt. I can't say I really shot anything. I probably cans, but I wanted to learn that process. But also realized that he went through a lot of challenges, and I'm going to introduce those challenges in a little bit when it comes to the food entrepreneurs that are out there. This represents me. I tried to find some pictures of a young Riana on computers. I'm sure they'll show up somewhere. But my dad is an entrepreneur as well, a small contractor in the city. He was just so passionate about finding new technology and introducing it to my brother and soon after myself and at a very young age. And my mom, equally passionate about technology in her own way, made sure that I had, I think, the second version of the Apple computer. Didn't have color. I was a very young girl just trying to figure out these programs and ended up, she put me in a private school up in Evanston. We could barely afford it, but she made sure that I could spend as much time as possible on a home computer. And I would say really early on that had a great impact in my life. And from there, I was able to really bridge the passion for myself of a business coming from a group of great entrepreneurs, food entrepreneurs and farming entrepreneurs in my family, as well as my passion around health and business policy. Ended up working on these initiatives in the White House. And soon after, found myself after grad school looking to dive into food entrepreneurship, to business and business development. I was working on one project in 2011 during the American Jobs Act, where I had to go in and find 2 businesses in every state that we could highlight that had a great story about how they grew or bootstrapped to a wonderful American business and why the Jobs Act was necessary for them. They weren't too happy about calls from the White House. I was pretty shocked. I would call some places in Alaska and Mississippi, and they didn't care about being on a White House blog. They didn't want their company featured in press, and they would get tons of business, but some people didn't support the president at the time. But I learned a lot about that experience. And really, at that time, a few years ago, I realized how passionate I was about business and how that equaled to my passion with food and health. And as I launched into my first endeavor, this is actually, at the time, Ward 2 Alderman Bob Fioretti, who also ran for mayor. We're taking shots of wheatgrass, not whiskey, right there. That was a fun day. We talked a lot about my challenges as an entrepreneur, about challenges in the area, and how we could find ideas to grow the businesses and grow the passions of so many entrepreneurs that are out there. At this time, even though I had a fast-growing endeavor, I really thought about, what are the tools that the businesses have out there, it's really the difference between the haves and the have-nots nowadays when it comes to businesses. There are the people that have really great ideas, and then there are the ones that have still great ideas and have wonderful potential to grow, but as I learned very early on, it's the difference between having digital presence and tools today that are going to take you to that next level, to that 2.0 kind of business growth level. And these are things that I've learned from looking at businesses, from helping with business development, from having endeavors that taught me a lot in the process. And I'm very happy that I'm able to bring the skills of knowing how to increase digital and increase the, business development design, as well as learning from all of my experiences how a good small business can take their steps to the next level. Through my interest in really becoming someone that works with small business founders to grow and scale, I've realized that these businesses don't have a lot of tools that they need to take it to what I think right now is the next age within small business. And this is when we ask the question, how can our small businesses and communities grow? And this has led to my current company, which is called Food Trace. And we think of our solutions, and we think of a lot of what we're doing as supply chain 2.0. So specifically, since I focus on small businesses and that are in the food and agriculture industry, let's take a look at what are some of the biggest problems facing the entrepreneurs today. First, let's start out with 81% of the businesses in the food industry have low or no digital presence. This doesn't just include our marginalized founders, such as Black women and Latinas, which are, in terms of all founders, are growing at faster rates than ever. But these are our food business owners. These are our favorite food artisans. These are the next Blue Aprons. These are your favorite cupcake makers and trail mix makers. A lot of the ideas and businesses that are out there are within this group. Lots of loss because of this, lots of potential loss. Let's think about ourselves right now. I'm sure most of you, before you go to a store, before you buy a product online, before you visit a restaurant, you're on your computer, on your phone, learning more about what's available, what are the ratings for that restaurant or store or food business, what have your friends said about it. More than ever, we're buying and cooking out or going to eat outside of our homes, but also we're using the web to make the decisions for us. At Food Trace, we really focus on the entrepreneurs and their needs. Chefs are seeing that same demand directly from their consumers out there. So buying power, the traceability, the visibility of your product, and the information that you're giving to your consumers has direct impact on how your business is operating, how you choose to manage your supply chain. And also, let's get back to my grandfather, who I talked about, is 97 years old in Virginia. He still sells at the markets and supports small meat farmers every single Saturday now. And so when we look at these trends and what's really impacting the food business owners today, we all have these same questions. And really it's how do we figure out the solutions for this? And these are things that we've been attacking and trying to ask the entrepreneurs that we work with every day. So within the food industry, you probably hear a lot of these questions about food. How far has it come from? How much? Is it fresh? Is there impact? Is it from a local producer? Is it fair trade? One thing that is not happening is that this information is either available and it's not being disseminated correctly to the buyers, or there's significant logistics and supply chain inefficiencies, which leads to this just devastating number. 45% of the energy and the food that is grown and made in the United States does not make it to our tables. It's even higher in many developing countries, anywhere from 60 to 75%. The food industry, the agriculture industry, and technology, I think of them as the biggest industries in the world. And if there still remains large inefficiencies, if these industries are still very disjointed, have a lot of old ways, then this loss is going to continue. When we think about things like hunger, 45% loss, we probably have 45% of the world that goes hungry every day, right? So if you translate that, that means we're growing enough food to solve our hunger and a lot of our food issues within this country and within the world. When we think about food business owners that not only me and my team deal with every day, but the ones that you know and love, they're either wasting tons of product, tons of time, or tons of money just to feed all of us 3 times a day. And we are really setting out to solve these issues. Let's look at the market today. 6.2 farmers and artisans. This is who I mentioned earlier. In the U.S. alone, the $2.1 trillion agribusiness industry, our favorite farmers, the fresh produce and meats that we get to our restaurants and to our grocery stores, our favorite artisans, the consumer packaged goods folks, whether it's chips or popcorn or a pre-packed enchilada, those make up 6.2 million of our businesses in the U.S. Those are people that we really focus on at Food Trace, and let me show you how. What's happening is that there are definitely distributors that help with logistics issues, but at the same time, many of these wholesale prices are marked up and causing lots of problems. But this is the only way that our food business can manage how they get a product from a farm to their doors, right? So an apple can start out at 10 cents from a farmer. By the time it goes to a local distributor or a national distributor and ends up at Whole Foods, it will be $1.10, right? And so who's really making the money within this process? Now, we aren't going out and delivering for people, but we're making sure that they have the digital tools so that they can have better growth and productivity within their company. And we're doing this by focusing on maps. I try to imagine a world 10, 15 years ago where you had to go find a friend and go to a party or go on a road trip without Google Maps in my phone. Now, it's really hard. How did I do that? I remember fold out maps, but then I'm you can't really use fold out maps to go to the other side of the city. It was just, I can't imagine how we really dealt with that, but it's just amazing how much maps are impactful to our lives each and every day. Maps are such a big part of the supply chain. Connecting the digital, the virtual, and the physical world for a company is so valuable to your growth potential. I'm sure a lot of you order a product on FedEx or send it to a friend or family member. When you get that tracking information, you might say, okay, I got this tracking, I'm going to look at it. It says my product ended up in Memphis at 2 p.m. yesterday. It's slated to deliver between today and maybe Friday, but you know nothing about that product. You really wish that maps and kind of live tracking and just more information would be helpful for your own sanity, but also for your productivity. I had the opportunity to travel to Italy last month to speak at the U.S. Food and Innovation Summit for the World's Fair. And a team member of mine, Katie, she's our business development director, she went just after me to speak at that summit as well. Her bag, I think Katie came back a few days ago, her bags are still coming from Paris. We did a photo shoot with some businesses yesterday. All the products from that summit are still not there, don't know where the bags are, so hopefully she finds it soon. But information is so valuable to operations, to daily productivity, to sanity, and so we think at Food Trace that having strong supply chain mapping for a business will offer that same productivity and sanity and growth for the many farmers and artisans out there. So as you can see in the screen, one thing that we offer is the ability for a producer to map out exactly where their products are ending up so that not only they can manage that internally, but they can also let their customers know that our products are available in all of these places. Traditionally, you might go to a website and look at their contact page, and they may have maybe a list of where their products are. They might list a couple restaurants, a website, or a couple small grocers. But it's much more valuable when you're able to interact and integrate with a map of where the products are actually ending up and find them as a consumer. And having that digital presence not only increases your sales for your product, but helps you manage exactly where it's going and where you can target for your next growth opportunities. That's really what we focus on, is making sure that we are getting your supply chain data in one place, that it's mapped and profiled so that you can then become a stronger business. And so one of the things that's been helpful is that maybe about 6 months ago, I was named to Google for Entrepreneurs as an entrepreneur in residence. And so we've been working very closely with the team, the Maps team over at Google, to figure out the best ways to bring out the newest mapping tools for our businesses out there so that they can tap into growth opportunities. It's been a great ride so far. This is my third food business. Others are either running or have been acquired. And so far, we've had really great traction in terms of the smaller users that are just using our platform for more information, really interested in mapping, and also kind of the enterprise tools that we can add on to the businesses that are already operating and have their own logistics. We're not trying to recreate the process, we're trying to improve the process. And adding the next level of the digital spectrum, adding mapping, adding the tools that we're using as consumers every single day is something that's really going to help and take our food industry to the next level. It's been great. We've had really awesome partners. I just came from an investment conference maybe 2 hours ago, and one of the main conversations of this was, how do we help the entrepreneurs that are women, that are Black, that are Latino? And it's a long road. Startups, technology have a lot of barriers. Women only make up 2.7% of all businesses that are invested in. It's even less for minority women. 96% of investors out there and partners of technology endeavors are males. A lot of them don't exist in Chicago. But one thing that does exist is the demand and the need for change within the agriculture and within the food industry. And so because we have so many of these businesses, because we need a farmer and a food artisan 3 times a day, it's been great to get a lot of these partnerships. We've built a great team. Myself, as Dave said, I'm a biologist, a chemist, and really focused on business development. CTO is farm boy, grew up in Indiana, also as an astrophysicist and data scientist from University of Chicago. Katie is a scientist and a restaurant enthusiast and expert on farm to table, and a lot of other great organizations that are really focused on helping us do what we're doing. You might see McDonald's up there and wonder about the mission, but one thing that we've learned with looking and finding solutions for even some of our biggest businesses is we set out to build a supply chain map for McDonald's to show exactly some of the places they were buying from, because we actually have customers that sell to them. A lot of their salads from the same farms that supply to Whole Foods. You would never know that. Their spices, oftentimes organic from New Mexico. A lot of spices that are sold to a lot of our favorite large buyers as well. So whether there are digital inefficiencies or supply chain inefficiencies, that data and the mapping and the supply chain needs really exist at every single level. So what I like to think is that, at Food Trace, we're designing maps, we're designing supply chain tools for the business owners that remind me of my grandmother, of my grandfather, that really need that push so that they're selling 100% or even close to that yield, and that they are not struggling to get out there, but with tools like Food Trace and like many of the other tech entrepreneurs can help them take their business and continue to grow. Thank you.